friends and enemies. Coming to you live today, new all-time high in the Bitcoin price, new all-time low in federal government organization. My name is Joey. That's Len. What is going on, buddy? How the heck are you?
I'm really good, Joey. Neither of our block clocks are showing a price. We had a 1 in 3 chance, and neither of us are showing it. That's incredible.
I got the sats per dollar, under 1,000 sats per dollar now.
Yeah, 943 it's showing on yours. Mine just showing the block height. So
gotta like that. We got a lot to talk about today. Price, reserves, qubits. Yeah, plus there's a little bit of turmoil in Ottawa. We'll get to all that. First, as always, the sponsors, EasyDNS, best place for you, listener, viewer, to get all your registrar stuff taken care of. Mark is the best registrar in the game. We know that. You know that. He is humble enough that he doesn't say it every time he gets on a mic, but he should. We use them for our website. A number of you guys are using them for your websites, and I encourage everyone to give them a shot if you haven't already. Why? Best and easiest way to either buy a domain or bring a domain over to a competent registrar. Best and easiest place to host content. We have a little blog there. We put some videos up. We got a functional website, though it is underutilized, like an NFL fullback in the year 2024. And on top of that, many different virtual private server things you can do, whether you want to do a Bitcoin node, Nostr relay, BTC Pay server, you name it. And all the security you need too, thanks to Domain Sure. Never get got by some hacker group, some underground racket trying to snipe your data or snipe your domain. Mark's got you. Go to the website, easydns.com. Use the promo code CBP Media. Get half off whatever you buy. So load the cart and head over. Spend some of your newfound Bitcoin riches with Mark and the gang. Who is next?
You could have waited a little longer, Joey. We're getting awfully close to getting to the price of Bitcoin because I have no idea what it is. Whatever it is, it's a good time to buy, good time to sell. Whatever's your fancy, Bull Bitcoin has you covered. You could do it on chain. You could use Lightning. Now I'm just going to stall a little bit because I'm curious to see what is the last block. 8 sats per VByte. So that's pretty low in my humble opinion. You might have a different opinion than my own. So I would suggest if you're going to buy, do it on chain. Don't use Lightning just yet, but certainly learn how to use it because there's going to be a point in time where it's going to be very expensive to use the on chain, and Bull Bitcoin has you covered. And you could buy using Lightning and sell using Lightning as well. Not just that, there's a couple of interesting services they have. The price of Bitcoin being so very high, it reached an all-time high today, yesterday. I see every day is another day of an all-time high. So people may want to start spending it in one particular way. You could use your bill service to start paying your bills with Bitcoin, and you'll be getting the most value for your dollar or for your sat. If you do that, so like if you have block was just mine right now, 6 sats for VByte was the just heads up on that. So if you do that and you start paying your bills, you're good to go. You could pay like a car bill, you could pay like a cell phone bill, whatever you think is best to pay, or just don't wait until later on and they start knocking on your door and then start paying. But at that time, price of Bitcoin will probably be even higher. It's not financial advice. And buy these gift cards and start spending them in the real world rather than just going out there and putting stuff in your pocket, not paying like a lot of people are doing. Pay for stuff, man. And how could you do that? Get these gift cards, buy them with your Bitcoin. So you're kind of spending your Bitcoin in the real world. You're living on a Bitcoin standard just the way Satoshi wanted you to. If you have not yet opened an account with Bull Bitcoin, I don't know what the heck you're doing, but do it using a promo code below, and $21 will be added to your account. And also they're expanding into France. So if you're in France right now and you want to open an account, I don't know if our promo code works over there. Give it a try. If it doesn't,
yes, sir. Bien sûr. Last sponsor, Decentral Tech. Decentral Tech under some fire online. I'm not going to talk about who said what, whatever. But I have no beef with Decentral Tech. I stand by the product. I stand by the service. I stand by the guys who are running the show. Len's just showing his bid axe. Mine is running off screen here. And, if you haven't ordered yours yet, you should. Neat little unit. I got to tell you, Len, I'm surprised how easy it was to set up. I thought for sure it'd be just a touch more difficult than that, but truly it is a 10-minute setup. Even for a guy like me who's never done it before, which was, excellent. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I mean, they're under a little bit of heat, but I think that's a growing business. We partnered with them for good reason. And I plan on sticking with them as a partner and as a sponsor. And I will probably, now that I have become somewhat of a hobby miner, spend ungodly amounts of money on little mining units. You can do the same. Go over to Decentral Tech. You can use almost knocked down my water here. You can use a promo code with our other sponsors, but with Decentral Tech, you don't have to. You just go there, spend a couple bucks, buy a little Bidax Supra, Bidax Gamma, Bidax, whatever you like. Buy an S19, buy an S21, get a heater, get whatever you need. And make sure you let those guys know that you think they're doing a good job. And if you got your CBP Bidax, take some pictures, man, put them up. Pretty hyped to see what you guys are doing with yours. Where are you going to put yours, Len? Where is yours going to live? Is it going to live right next to the computer there where you are?
Yeah, it's going to be permanently next to me over here.
I kind of want to feature mine somehow. Like maybe not there behind me, but like in my living room. It looks cool enough that you could put this somewhere fun and really have a good time with it.
Yeah. I just like the warm, fuzzy feeling when I could see that every 10 minutes it's a lottery ticket, and then just mere 2.5 feet away from that, it's my node, and I'm broadcasting my own transactions and verifying. So everything here is all very local.
Self-sovereign cocktail over there.
That's the way I like that. And the fact you were saying that it's running next to you, you have it over there. There's one thing I just want to make note, and it's running next to me too, Joey. I can't hear yours running.
They're silent.
They're silent. I'm pretty sure you can't hear mine running as well.
No. My wife even noted that, Len, when they came, I plugged mine in and was showing her kind of how the thing works or whatever. And she goes, "It's on right now and it's just silent." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Great."
How could you go wrong with that?
You can't. Honestly, you can't. I didn't get the huge heating or the huge heatsink / fan that you did for yours, but yeah, very quiet. And the temperature, thanks to the sort of simple interface of Axe OS, you can see the temperature unit at all times. Never gets that high. It's great, man. I'm expecting this thing to run for quite some time.
Now, are you able to talk about which mining pool you're using? Or is that
which one are you using?
You know what? I'm using Kano. I've been using that for quite a while. It's kind of off the beaten path, and I use it. And I mean, I like the fact that if you check it out, it's a really small one, and it finds blocks on average 2, 3, 4 times a year. It's just not very much. But the overall hash rate of the pools over there, it's very small. So if they score a block, there's a decent chance I get one of those 3.125.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. That's a good idea. I have tried mine on 2 different pools. One, the CK solo pool, which was fun. And now it's running on, actually I tried 3, CK solo, Oceans pool, and Brains. It's on Brains pool right now. Seems to be pretty good. Nets, I don't know, 50 cents, $1 a day, something like that, which is fine with me. And like, you know what, Len, the interesting thing about the pools is that much like Bitcoin generally, the incentive structure works and keeps people from all just piling into one pool. So as one pool becomes too populated, you'll see people head over to other pools, like whether it's Ocean or Kano, as you mentioned. I never even heard of that one. Because the reward is so much greater. And if you don't need the 3.125 right now, you may get that 3.125 sometime down the road, which is not bad. What's the hash rate of your pool? Do you know?
Overall, good question. I could check right now.
Yeah.
It's off the top of my head, I didn't know. 28 petahash.
Nice.
Which isn't a heck of a lot.
Well, though, for an path pool.
The last time it found a block was 162 days ago, but it found 3 this year, I think.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Something for everybody in the mining space. I've enjoyed the few days I spent with this thing, and I readily admit that as a stat hound, I love opening up the Brains interface to look at the stats, and I love opening up the Axe OS interface as well.
Oh yeah. The Brains is pretty cool. You gotta adjust it. Yeah,
the Brains one is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. You want to go to Boost?
Yeah, we got a few. Wartime 333 sats. He does the beer mugs and a heart.
Psyched. Thanks, Wartime.
Doug and Roop, 2 different submissions, 525 sats each. He says, number 1, fuck you, Len. You're my friend, and you can't sit there saying you have no friends without hurting my feelings. Unless you're talking about in real life, then fair enough. Also, good to have you back, Joey.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. Len, you have friends in real life. We worked together for a long time. I know you got friends.
0. Doug and Roop, second one writes in, amused and ashamed at the notable blighty news. Paying wind farms not to produce because they're too windy. Accelerate. Yeah.
True accelerate moment. I love it.
You know what? I missed one at the beginning. D's laughs.
Okay.
123 sats. He writes, loving the news breakdown with humor. Keep stacking your sats. Maxwell, get smart.
100%. 100%. These laughs here for these nuts. Who's next?
Last but not least is M Flux, 2169 sats. He says, if your car was built post 1990s, then you're still short Bitcoin. Even better, trade it in for a moped. Man, you know what? Two things. Cars that are built in the 90s, and if it's an everyday driver here in Canada, especially in this part, they get rusted to hell. And second, a moped, it's good for 8 months of the year. That's about it. And over here, it's tough. I mean,
would you ever consider getting like a winter sort of 2-wheel bike? I know you're a motorcycle guy, but would you ever consider riding something in the winter like that? Or is it just too dangerous, too cold?
It's too cold. Once it gets, for me, my tolerance is if it's single digits, I can't ride on a highway, and I just can't do it for any. And also, once the leaves fall down, and I just stay the heck away from it because you're just asking for a wipeout. Plus, piece of black ice that you just can't see. You only have 2 wheels. You lose traction on one, you're gonzo. So
true.
No.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Where should we now? Normally we start with Bitcoin news. I really think it's more prudent to start with the financial statement. And
do you want to go first?
I mean, we should.
Do you want to lead this one off, because I'm sure you have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's give a quick summary here. Okay.
Summary.
Yeah, let's give a quick summary for people who have been under a rock today, or the true Bitcoiner without a podcast who doesn't follow normie news. Minister Freeland, who I think many would say, accurately so, is the right-hand woman of the Trudeau government, surprise resignation this morning. 8 a.m., called the prime minister, short conversation by all accounts, resulting from, it sounds like, a Friday demotion that included needing to read the fall economic statement today, 2 months late or a month and a half late, with what was a fiscal anchor, fiscal guardrail, completely destroyed and disregarded. Government obviously spending $62 billion last year as far as deficit spending, and promising Canadians at this time last year $40 billion as the anchor. So missed it by about 50%. So she resigns. Lots of talk today about the role of certain ministers in ensuring that result, and maybe more importantly, certain non-elected officials, advisors. Carney, old Mark there. How you doing, Mark? Hope you're watching. Making an attempt to force Freeland into a corner to give the bad news to Canadians, and then, like the good foot soldier she's been, resign, remain friendly with the sitting government and the prime minister's office, and just do the quote unquote right thing for the Liberal Party. They couldn't have got that any more fucking wrong. Now, the real question really is, like, what happens now to the Liberal government? Nothing from the prime minister today. I didn't expect anything from him. I don't think anyone should have expected anything from him. From the weakest man in parliament, potentially in parliamentary history, Jagmeet Singh, continued sort of shameful and embarrassing comments during QP, laughed out of his seat every time he opened his mouth by his colleagues. It sounds like on both sides of the aisle, talking about how he wants the PM to resign, but will not call an election. Why is that? Well, you can sort of pick your theory, but the best one going is some mix of a pension and the lack of an NDP war chest. You pointed that out many times, Len. Financials are public. I think the last we checked, the NDP had less than $1 million in terms of cash and cash equivalents. Is that right? I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I can't remember the specifics, but it sounds right.
Checked a while ago. I don't think from a political tactics standpoint, the people who think that Carney is going to take over, I think that's wrong. I think Carney coming in now makes him the weakest and most disliked finance minister, potentially high-ranking Canadian politician of all time next to Trudeau's current state of affairs. Why is that, Joey? Well, 2 reasons. One, you are in what is very much an anti-elite wave in the Western world. And that's a perceived anti-elite wave. Obviously, Elon and friends in the States, very highly regarded by the party and the constituents there. But here, Carney would not enjoy the same luxuries. He's a central banker. He's a former Bank of Canada governor, Bank of UK governor, friend of the WBF. He is more emblematic of the problem than he is the solution. I think any rational actor would think that, including liberal strategists in the party and outside. But the other reason is that it's hard to replace Freeland, who, for all the things I disagree with her on, pulled off a masterclass exit, true masterclass, pulling no punches in her written statement that she gave to the prime minister and released publicly this morning, talking about how she was at odds with the prime minister's vision for Canadians, calling out I think her words were eschewing political tricks, costly political tricks in favor of things that actually make sense for the economy and the population more broadly. And I expect her now to basically lay low for a couple of months. She's going to be the person everybody wants to talk to, probably. But she doesn't have to do that if she doesn't want. We've seen this before. People step down from power and, maybe end up on Rogan a month later or 2 months later. I don't think she'll ever, ask Jamie to pull something up. I don't think she's going to go that direction, but I do think that she'll lay low and probably benefit from whatever happens next to the Liberal Party. She noted in her resignation letter that she will not be giving up her seat and will be running in the next election. That is I am in the arena now announcement, in my opinion. And, this all sort of stems, I think, from, like I said earlier, the ask that she read the fall economic statement, which maybe was written by Mark Carney, or at least had some significant contributions from Mark Carney. The fall economic statement was a disaster, a total disaster. I have it marked up here. I'm not going to share my screen because my comments are quite pointed and there's no point in me, repeating them on the air just to make people upset or whatever. And also this stupid website won't load anyway. But, a couple of significant points I thought in the fall economic statement. The first words of the fall economic statement were basically blaming Russia and COVID for the dire financial and fiscal straits that Canada finds itself in. That's embarrassing. It's shameful and embarrassing that we're doing that, that we allow that to be published and that we wear that for the rest of the world to see, especially at a time when it seems like all political stripes realize just how serious the Trump administration is about making things right between Canada and the US. And even the most diehard liberal in terms of political affiliation and party affiliation has to admit that the team he's assembled is far superior than anything we have here in Canada. You may disagree with that, but I just don't think that's a negotiable point at this stage. In the report, there's a number of mentions of stuff that we've pointed out on this show for years, except it's getting the opposite spin. Things like, we've achieved a soft landing. How do we know? Well, Canada is the first country to get inflation under control. And because we've gotten inflation under control, we've been able to lower our rate of it, our overnight rate 6 times or 5 times, whatever it's been, something insane. No appreciation to, or no nod to the fact that the sequence of events for interest rates to drop is actually, inflation is very high. And so you raise rates to stifle demand. And then as demand drops, you lower rates to stimulate demand. Well, what we've done here is destroyed demand so much thanks to poor economic decisions, including, by the way, what Carolyn Rogers called a productivity crisis a few months ago. Now the rates have to come down because the economy is about to hit the skids in a major way. And I just want to note that the Bank of Canada is spoken about very highly in the report, but there's no mention of how that statement from Rogers is correct or incorrect about the government doing all the wrong things on productivity and needing to really, discern its head from its ass a little bit and make a good policy decision about what Canadians should be doing for their 9 to 5 and what the country needs as far as productivity from its population. Nothing about that. There's also nothing about immigration contributing to the disastrous economic conditions in the country. Tons of talk, playing all the hits, like I tweeted earlier, about how we are the best in the G7 in terms of rate decreases, in terms of GDP expected by the IMF. Like, these institutions that have proven themselves to be, in the best case, frequently incorrect, and in the worst case, intentionally deceitful about the current state of affairs in money, in politics, and in anything that touches the two of those silos. For them to point to those institutions and that data as a sign that we are headed the right direction, I think is again shameful for them to do. It's dishonest for them to do, and it's demonstrably false. It flies in the face of what we experience every day as Canadians. How many times on this show in the last 2 years have you pointed out that food bank use is at an all-time high? Often enough that even TradFi stars on major networks, in major papers, hedge fund managers, etc., including guys like Jeff Gunlock, now mentioning food bank usage and saying, look, the government can say whatever it wants about employment, about COVID, about rates, but here's the story on the ground. Everyone is trying to get soup cans multiple times a week where before they weren't. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You the judge, listener, viewer. There's notes in there about how Canada was the fastest to return to its pre-COVID employment rate, and talks about all the high-wage jobs it's created. It's fucking bullshit. All those jobs are public sector. Something like 90% of the jobs in the last jobs report were public sector, of the 300K or 500K. I forget the number. You can go back all the way through COVID and find that most of those jobs are public sector. And even worse, the report will allow you to connect these dots, or the statement will allow you to connect these dots if you're able to think about it for more than 5 seconds, which obviously a lot of, party diehards are not, or choose not to. But the dots you can connect are from the first 50 pages of the report, where they talk about subsidy and encouragement as far as DFI, direct foreign investment in Canada. They talk about stories you and I have mentioned here, Volkswagen and Honda and others. And what they're trying to say in the report is that look at all the investment, look at all the jobs, look at all the things we're doing to grow the economy. But what the data and the distilled real version of events,
it's actually a political document, Joey. I don't care how you slice or dice it.
It's not a political document, because
it is.
It's not. If it was a narrative document, I would say then what they could do is get rid of the data. But they actually give you all the data you need to draw the complete picture for yourself.
Because it's going to be coming out in plain sight in 5 months when the budget is released.
Yeah,
they're basically trying to ease the pain by saying, look, this is what's coming down the pipe. They can't fucking sugarcoat shit.
They are trying to sugarcoat it. They are trying to sugarcoat it, though, big time.
It's a political thing. This is
the thing. The thing they say. Yeah. The thing they're saying about, COVID in Russia. COVID in Russia.
You know what? In my opinion, certainly COVID, and not the actual virus itself.
It was 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago.
It was four and a half years ago. But it's not the virus itself.
No,
it was exactly.
Yeah.
No, the prices do not go back to pre-COVID.
They do not,
because the money that's now in the system is never going to want.
This is the thing that
truth to that.
There is some truth, but the thing that really bothers me the most is that the data is there for everyone to see now. Like you mentioned, maybe it is to sort of dumb it down or wet the blanket a bit for what's coming in the spring. But I would say that it's just everywhere you look, what you're seeing is just I hate to use this word because it's like overused and it makes you sound like you're not a serious person, but it's a lot of communist looking stuff. It's government subsidies for investment. We're paying people to come here and invest a little bit of money, and the dollars per job is some astronomical number. It's way too high. It's not efficient. We're paying people to work for the government in jobs that don't necessarily add value to the average Canadian taxpayer. And then on top of that, you could say that, there's some private sector growth, like it's 5% of the jobs or 10% of the jobs. How many of that 10% are in industries like Honda, Volkswagen, Stellantis, or whatever that battery company is? How many of those jobs?
Stellantis is a group of companies. It's
whatever. There's like there's another like whatever company on that list. How many of the private sector jobs are actually just jobs that are coming from government subsidy? They are at the bottom. Like I said, when you distill it, they're just more government jobs. Canada is in an unbelievably bad situation, and if you weren't sure before, then maybe you should reconsider how bad things are. I'm going to give you a list, Len, of all the, let me just pull it up here, a list of all the finance ministers that have ever been removed from their post in Canada during a government. Bill Morneau Chrystia Freeland. That's the list.
Well, no, it's a little bit longer than we've had
removed from their post during a sitting government.
Now, Paul Martin, if I remember this specifically, depending on who you listen to, he either resigned or was forced to resign. So it's revisionist history may tell you one way or another, but we still to this day do not know for certain if he resigned or he was forced to resign.
Add him to the list. The point is that it never happens. And it's happened twice under this government. And the idea that you have someone like Freeland, who is a loyalist, like say what you want about her, but you want someone like Freeland in your corner if you're running a government. There's no doubt about that. You can agree with the politics, disagree with the politics. You can not like her communication style. She,
do you know who picked Chrystia Freeland to come in to become a member of parliament?
No.
So go back in time. The Liberal Party was the third party at the time after the 2011 election.
Yeah.
And they had just elected Justin Trudeau as their leader.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013, from what I gather, I could be wrong, but he either handpicked or encouraged or whatever for her to run in Toronto Centre Rosedale, I think was the riding name at the time. I think this has changed. So she was one of the first people that he ushered into the Liberal team, right? It's a telling sign when you have one of the first people that you handpicked come in.
Yeah.
Now she's, for whatever reason, there is disagreement between her and Justin Trudeau. I guess people could understand why or figure it out.
She leaves in a way that's like maximum negative impact for the party and the leadership.
There was a caucus meeting today,
5 o'clock, in person only.
From what I gather is when she showed up, there was a standing ovation.
She went?
It's a sitting member. Every sure she had to go.
Good for her.
And she's a sitting. So she went.
Do you see how good this policy is? The things like how glowingly I'm speaking of Minister Freeland, with whom I disagree on basically everything. This is the courage, and you can say, and this is a valid case to be made that we shouldn't sugarcoat her past. The trucker convoy, various things that are very close to the hearts of Bitcoiners. There's no need to erase history, but what we have here, I think, is at least some potential for reform, both in her personally and in the party. And you want competitive parties in your democratic state. I'm happy to see this. I am. And
was there any way out of this?
No.
Carney was looking like he was going to somehow come in. And what position was Carney going to get? You're not going to give him, was it Canadian Citizen Services?
Apparently he said no to finance minister a few times already. So
I'm still debating in my head why he would run. But if you are going to have Freeland go into any other position, it's a demotion unless it's prime minister. Because generally the way things are, it's prime minister is the biggest at the top, and then just below it is the finance minister.
Yes.
So other than that, like if she's the finance minister, what position could you offer her to say, yeah, this is I thought initially a way to dangle a carrot for her, maybe that's the wrong term, but I'm just going to use that for now, is that give her an ambassador position or a high commission position somewhere.
She doesn't want it. I think she wants to lead the party in the country.
That could be it.
And guess what? I think after today, she's got to be the favorite. Does she not?
Well, let's
not
go
going
back.
to be like the silence today from Karina Gold, from Champagne, from Fraser, who resigned but still showed up in.
He had to. He's a member
for QP. I know, but like the other members didn't show up, Len, so he didn't have to do anything. And like these guys,
he's a minister. There's no minister that, like, very few ministers that didn't show up today.
Whatever. There's at least a few that didn't, and for him to show up is fine. And I get it. You know what you're saying, but I think that if you look across the roster of Liberal MPs now, who's it's got to be her, right? She's the favorite, probably.
She was always
100%. She was always a candidate, but she was too close to the PM before,
right?
And a few months,
she's distancing herself.
Exactly. A great letter, a few months of well-placed interviews, a few months of well-placed critical commentary while she continues to be an MP, she's got to be the favorite. Big losers today. The PM, obviously, like that office has got to be in tatters. Telford, who will never work again once the PM is done. And I think Melanie Joly, another huge loser today, tried to get a New York Times, whatever New York Magazine glow up last week, and just gets, obliterated today by what was, again, a really high quality piece of comms and a very well executed comm strategy from Freeland and her team.
Now, Carney, he's how old?
60 something, probably
59.
Yeah.
So we could play out this whole scenario. Theoretically, he becomes the next leader of the Liberal Party, or finance minister, and then eventually becomes leader of the Liberal Party. And Maybe. It could be during when they're either still have a government and he could be the prime minister, or he could be in opposition or third party, depending on where they end up. What's the long-term strategy for Mark Carney? 59 years old right now.
Yeah.
I would suggest that if there's an election, and there should be one in the next 10 months or so, just the way everything is looking, is going to be a change in government.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything that's going to, knock people's socks off. So you're probably going to have 2 terms of the other guys and gals doing their thing. Potentially another 8 years. Then he'll be 67 at that particular moment, maybe 68 if it's next election next year. And then he would now get his kick at the can to become prime minister.
I don't see it.
Scenario.
I don't see it. I don't see
right.
It.
Like the guy, he's
so let's get your prediction for the party. Let's say for give me the 6 month and 12 month. Who's at the helm? Is there election 6 months from now? 6 months from now?
You know what? I don't have. Fraser would have been somebody I thought that could have been there long term. He's young enough. He's a very good orator. Like I think that you could say what he wanted about how he handled IRCC, but I think that there's enough to him that he's an East Coaster. Like there's a lot there. But you know what? It looks like he wants to spend more time with his family, and that's great. Like that's good for him. He's choosing that rather than politics. Politics is a tough gig, and it takes a lot out of you and your family. So I don't know. I honestly running and winning. I can't see Carney really being there for a long term. Jolie, no. Gould, doesn't. I don't know. So I don't know. And this is like every party except for maybe the Liberals of the 90s and early 2000s, is they never had somebody groomed ready. Harper had that same problem. Mulrooney had that same problem. At least in the Liberal Party of the 90s and early 2000s, there was infighting between Paul Martin and Chrétien. So you kind of figured when one was going to leave, Chrétien, Paul Martin was going to step in and take control. Didn't really work out that way in the long run. He had just one minority government, and then after that, he was kicked out. So that's the problem is parties generally are centralized around one individual, and there's no heir apparent.
They get centralized around one person when they don't have, like, this is the thing that's really amazing to me. The Liberals have been a cult of personality around Trudeau for 15 years. And like there's not been any real successes as a government from this Liberal, which is weird, right? Like
no.
What is the success? What is it?
He is the only leader that has taken a party from third party status to winning anything. And he didn't just win a minority government. He won an outright majority. That is a massive win. When it comes to campaign time, he is an animal. That's his bread and butter. I don't think he's going to have enough to win next time around, but he's really good when it comes to campaign time. That's where he just tends to shine, and he hasn't lost an election yet. That's proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be at the helm for the next election, and I think that election is going to come before the summertime.
I've said it for a long time that I can't see him being there next time around, next election. When it happens, to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen before the end of his term.
I would be shocked. I would just be shocked. The other thing too to keep in mind, like, is that I don't think they think it's going to happen either. because what's his name there? Who was the guy who was named interim finance minister? I can't remember.
Not Champagne.
No,
but Dominic LeBlanc.
LeBlanc kept his security portfolio
For the time being.
Well, I think that tells you that what's happening is that this is an interim appointment. And I expect that they're going to bring somebody in to be the finance minister. And like, I'd be shocked if it was Carney, but like, who else from the party would want it?
Or they could
your party declining to give the FES. Presumably there's a pre-written speech for that. They wouldn't give it. It's like a radioactive. Everything is that whole file is radioactive. And if you step into it, you got to know that there's a, Carney size shadow looming over you at all times. So
it's meaningless because whoever comes in, most likely you're going to be sitting in opposition or even worse. I can't see any way in which they could form government, given the way all the polls are showing. It's been consistent.
Obviously not now. I mean, if you didn't think so before, now it's over.
Right. And again, I'm not saying anything that's going to knock people's socks off, but there's a growing discontent within the Liberal Party. You now have Liberal MPs that are coming out, writing letters, penning letters, and publicly stating that it's time for the leader to step down. Apparently, it's upwards of 60 MPs.
You were saying
60 Liberal MPs, are upset and want to see something done. That's a lot. It's hard to govern a nation when you have total control of your party or total support of your party. That's a better way to say it. It's impossible to govern a nation when the party itself is fractured.
Yeah.
And so to go like a step further, or even backwards, the NDP, I cannot see them wanting to trigger an election before the end of this whole term, because like I said, they don't have the funding that they need in order to run a general election.
Yeah.
If they do, if you're in Jagmeet Singh's shoes, why would you want to trigger an election? You could look at the polls and his riding, it's showing he's not going to be reelected. Yeah. Why would you even do that right now?
Yeah.
So you would say, I'd like to wait this out for as long as possible. Let's try to talk to the people, try to resonate with them, try to build support. And in the meantime, we'll try to increase the money coming in through donations.
I just don't see it for them. Like, they're the party of the low IQ and underemployed. Unfortunately, the NDP, it's hard to raise money from that crowd. It's like getting blood from a stone, even when the economic times are good. When they're bad, those people, where are you going to do your fundraising campaigns? At a food bank? Like, that's basically
very difficult.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
Very difficult. But I could tell you, if they don't have any expenses, which they probably for sure they do, but they will probably have more money in 10 months than they do right now. Just because of, just in general, they could do some campaigning, they could do some fundraising, they could do whatever.
How much how much fundraising are they doing now? Like, I should sign up for the mailing list of all the big three parties and just see like how big has the push been for campaign money.
Isn't Mr. Green one of your MPs, or am I wrong?
Oh God, I was watching the QP today with Kenzie, and Matt Green gets on the mic there, and I just
like Boomdust is asking how will they have more money? Just people in general, unions will support them. I know it's tough times for everybody, but
do you think that's? I don't know. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying they won't get support, but like the question isn't the question. Like, is the question about money? This is not a politics podcast, but we fucking burned 40 minutes on this already. Is the question is like money is one piece of it, but you have to balance that with public opinion. And what you have to ask yourself is, if they drag this on another year, will it matter how much money they have?
Their Conservative Party, in my personal opinion, cannot get past 50% of support.
You think they can't? There's a ceiling for them. Okay.
I think there is. So they were kind of close, like 42, 43, whatever. So I think 50, and I'm just throwing that number out. I just can't see them going past that. So you're going to have the remaining 50 to 60 that's going to have to vote for someone else. Now the Bloc is going to get theirs, and the Liberals are going to get theirs. So the NDP is going to get a slice of that pie. And right now, what is it, 15, 20%?
Ish, yeah.
Could it go up? It can't go down.
Well, like, is it possible that Singh looks at the polling numbers in a week and is like, yeah, my strategy is working, just because Trudeau goes down another 5, 6, 7%, and he picks up 3%. And he's like, look, we're doing better now.
You know
And then the
something,
strategy
Joey?
just keeps looping. Like, I don't know.
You know something? If there's a change in leaders for the Liberal Party, there's a honeymoon period that follows that.
Yeah.
And there's generally a jump in support for that. And if that's the case, where does that come from? Some from the Conservatives, a small bit from the NDP. So it's going to make it even harder for the NDP to want to trigger an election because they'll be further behind the 8 ball than they are right now. So
it's just a gong show for Canada. Like, it's at a time, like I said earlier, when Trump is bringing in maybe the most competent set of advisors the White House has seen in 50 years. To have this going on here is like, it just could not be worse timing.
You know, the Liberals are having their own Christmas party at the Westin in Ottawa this Wednesday.
I heard.
Yeah. And so that will be, I would love to be a fly in the wall for that.
Why don't we just go?
I don't know what the cost would be, but would you want to go? I certainly wouldn't. Like, the cost of travel. Boomer, you're closest. If we send you a few bucks, would you want to go for us and report in?
We'll expense you $2,000 for a ticket, but you have to rent a tuxedo. I'm not buying you a tuxedo.
It's suit and tie. You can get in with that. So what I'm trying to get at is that party. Could you imagine the vibe over there?
Oh my God.
Compared to previous years where they were the government or even just the overall, like, the mood of Trudeau, he's third party, but there's still this, this thought, okay, we could do something. It must have been like a good time to be there. Now
it ain't.
You go there and it's fractured. Yeah. You probably have areas like that just people hate each other. And then how could you have the leader show up and then I guess he would give a speech, right? It would only make sense. That Christmas party, it's going to be just absolutely horrendous in terms of the vibe over there.
I look forward to the leaks from the caucus meeting tonight, tomorrow, Friday, whenever that happens. And I look forward to seeing what Parliament looks like when it resumes. Parliament breaking for Christmas Thursday, right?
Wednesday, I think, is the last session.
Yeah, tomorrow Wednesday's last session. So Thursday they're off, and then they're gone for I think a month, right? So
yeah, 6 weeks or something like that. So there's possible they could prorogue, and if that happens, every single bill
it'll get so loud. It'll get so loud if they prorogue.
The other guys did it, and the other guys did it at an interesting time, if you recall, and just after the election when there was that agreement between the Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc, and then Harper prorogued right after. So you know what? This is Canadian politics, and people might get upset, but the other guys have done it. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to say
it is. It's fun to be an entertaining political event for once, right? Like, we're always looking at the States for content on this show. It's nice today to be able to watch Rosie Barton get a feel for funny.
Oh, and it's not supposed to snow until Wednesday in Ottawa, from what I understand. So if that's the case, who knows? Who the heck knows? And one thing, I'm not sure if they have any trips that are going to be to Italy though, or Switzerland. It was both Italy and Switzerland, right?
It's Lugano. Let's go to Lugano for a quick,
Did they go to Lugano? No, it was they went to Zurich, I believe. It was Zurich, and I think they landed in Taranto. But anyway,
I don't know. Let's keep moving because we just blew 45 minutes on that story. It's a big story and it's relevant for Canadians, but if you're a Bitcoiner, I mean, you don't really care that much. It's like entertainment more than anything else. And reading through the FES will make you like so happy that you bought Bitcoin and are not relying on policymakers to support the value of your currency, because they,
you know what didn't happen today? The Canadian dollar stayed steady, even with all this instability. There was been no movement for whatever
you're at basically like a 40-year support line, right? So you'd expect to see this thing take a while to break down.
We hit 59 in 2001.
Yeah,
we had 59 cents.
Yeah, very
briefly.
Yeah, so we'll get there again.
Potentially, and then just at that time, 7 years later, we were like at 110, 115.
It's funny. The other thing, like, just one other thing I want to know from the FES that I thought was interesting. There's a whole page dedicated to how the Canadian dollar is one of the biggest new allocations for foreign central bank reserves in 2024. And I thought to myself reading that, like, does anything really demonstrate a lack of understanding of how markets work the same way that this statement does anywhere else in this article or in this report? I'm not sure. The the PMO is making the case that this is a sign that Canada's currency is on the come up and where the plan is working and the value of the loonie is increasing. Len, you've known me a long time. What am I going to say the reason is for people buying CAD in 2024 and putting it in their reserves?
I can't think of a single reason, but I can't think of a single reason why would anyone want to buy and do the same with the yen.
So I'll tell you the reason.
Australian dollar.
The reason they're selling is that the productivity story in Canada is not as bad as Pierre Poilievre says, and the currency is not a bad investment.
All the currencies are going to shit, though.
Here's what actually the reason is. The reason is that it's at a low, and literally a banana peel coming into the PMO's office next year will increase the productivity of the country, and the currency will bounce back a little bit. They're buying the lows. They can see the writing on the wall. This government's not going to be there in 25. And they're taking advantage of an easy trade, maybe a year, 2-year trade, whatever. Like that's how I see it. And for the PMO to write this article as though buying the currency now means that it's strong now. No, it means it's going to be strong later. And what you need to ask yourself is if you're still going to be there later. And the answer is obviously no. Like just such a clear misunderstanding of the reality on the ground in markets, the reality of why someone buys something and the nature of a currency reserve. They're buying it because it can't get any worse than you. And they know that next year, no matter who wins, it'll be better than it is now.
It could go anywhere. It could go better. If I had to guess, I mean, this dollar milkshake theory that we've been saying for quite some time, it's playing itself out now, right? So why can't the Canadian dollar go worse against the United States dollar, the euro ditto, the Japanese yen, the Australian dollar? You go on and on and on. They're all suffering. And you think with Trump coming in, putting tariffs, it's going to make the U.S. dollar weaker?
We won't have to worry about that.
I don't know,
because
man.
As the 51st state, we'll be able to use the U.S. dollar anyway. So
you know what? Hopefully, we can
finally be able to get 20 Timbits for $2 again. But it'll be U.S. dollars.
Probably not. No, just looking at with all this talk of tariffs and stuff like that. Hopefully, it could spur some businesses to. I understand it's tough to set up business here, but then we could try to be more self-sufficient, not just Canada, but every country too.
Totally. I totally agree. That is the rational response, by the way, to look in the mirror and go, oh, fuck, it's been 40 fucking years since we had any semblance of self-sufficiency economically, militarily, you name it. And yeah, this guy's coming in. He's going to tell us, he's basically giving us a warning. Like, by the way, it's going to be a tough 4 years for you if you don't turn this around. And our response is to complain. Like,
what if they just go to an extra mile and they front run the United States and they go call Tiff and say, Tiff, we need a couple of trill. We're going to buy Bitcoin. Could you imagine?
We'll never do it. We have like I said to you before, no innovation, no finesse over here. We are the definition of fighting yesterday's wars as I sit here brushing my football. Like, listen, I am like so fed up with thinking I shouldn't say fed up. I'm so done with sitting around waiting for someone to knock me out with an idea, to blow me away with an innovative idea in finance and politics and economics on the Canadian side. It's just never coming. Poilievre is not going to do it.
Even if they say they're buying Bitcoin, is that really going to knock you over?
It would knock me over because it would at least, Len, it would at least show me that there's a willingness not only to take a risk, but a willingness to upset the established order in the short term with a longer term view of prosperity. And we just simply don't have that in Canada. And many Western nations don't have that thanks to the election cycle. We're not unique in that way. But like this idea that we have to complain and we're going to, like Doug Ford, we're going to put taxes on energy. No one cares. You're a drop in the bucket, dude. You're a fucking idiot.
Well,
like to say that kind of stuff makes you sound stupid.
It's not put taxes. He would basically wouldn't stop it.
Yeah, so he'd stop some energy flow over the states.
Which do you know they provide a decent amount of electricity to 3 states?
Who cares? Who cares?
People are going to start.
Like I said to you last week, and maybe we don't see eye to eye on this. Like, there's a difference between when Canada says something about energy and tariffs and whatever else to the states, and the U.S. saying it to us. And the difference is two-pronged. One, we can't exert any soft power, right? The US has everything we have and will make changes on a dime to make sure that things go well over there that we simply cannot make. And two, they are our military. Like we don't have soft power or hard power. We have no influence on the global stage. Zero, none, nothing. And the idea that we literally can't influence policy. The PMO can't influence policy at the provincial level. The idea that a premier can influence outcomes in the United States is laughable.
It wouldn't be influencing the outcome. It's just tit for tat. It's essentially saying,
but no, see,
we'll do
Ford
that.
thinks it's tit for tat. What it actually is a fly in the bed with you. It's annoying, but killing it is not that hard.
No, it's
and you know, like we have to realize that we're not the ones. You know, like we are the fly in the bed, and no one seems to understand this. Everywhere I look, it's posturing, it's sound bites, it's this, it's that. We're gonna take on Trump. No, you're fucking.
No, you're not taking on anybody.
No, you're not. Like,
but one thing you have to understand is when it impacts you, then it means something. And when it starts impacting people in the state of Wisconsin, Michigan, and New York, we could go overseas and see what happened in Germany, for instance, as an example. Now they don't have energy coming into the same degree that they had before when they had nuclear plants. Now they're relying on the sun and wind, and some days are not the sun isn't shining because it's blocked by clouds, or the wind isn't shining. Now they have to import energy from, I believe, could be wrong, Denmark, and as a result, people living in Denmark are paying at a much higher rate of electricity. And they're pissed off because of it. So there is results that fucking happen.
But
so
again,
until it impacts you, then you're like, fuck, this shit sucks.
The U.S. is not Denmark. Like the U.S. will spin up power if they have to.
Yeah, for sure. They will. And hopefully they buy uranium from good old Canada.
Yeah, maybe.
We have a lot that the rest of the world desires, and we can make sure that we can put that to market. Yeah, and to make sure that it keeps food on our plates.
We need a government to do that for us, for sure.
And it will take any government will figure this out. Fresh water, we have tons. The world needs this. Wheat, lumber, oil, natural gas, uranium, diamonds, gold. Well, maybe not diamonds. You fucking are making it now in labs.
In labs, yeah.
There's a lot we have here, right? And
I don't know. I am not. I think you're more bullish on Canada than I am. I mean, we talked about this last week too. I was listening back to the show when I was doing the shorts, and you were saying how this is the best place in the world to live, maybe short of the States. And I'm just like,
it's a great place to make a living. I think I know a lot of people say, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Look somewhere else in the world and say, I'd rather live here and earn a living. And it may not be as good as Canada, in my opinion.
Huh. Now what? We did a whole hour on
Bank of Canada did some rate cuts. We could talk about that. 50 basis points.
Now I heard that's good. I heard that's a good thing.
It is what it is, and it's a good talking point for some, and it's a good talking point for others to show why things are good or bad. So if you're in a market of trying to get debt, or you have existing debt right now, good for you, especially if it's a floating debt. If it's fixed, you're probably kicking yourself because this thing has been going down and down.
Yeah,
and it continues to go down, and it should be going down even further next year. Now, we were pointing at the Canadian dollar, the weakness of it compared to the United States dollar. The Federal Reserve hasn't been cutting rates as aggressively as the Bank of Canada.
They meet this week. They meet Wednesday.
So there may come a point where they may start playing catch up, because let's be honest, Canada could only go as far down as what? Slightly below zero?
Yeah, probably.
And we're a long way from that. We're 3.25 right now.
The estimation, by the way, in the FES is 2% till 26 or 27, I think. So
as the Fed starts making moves, and the Bank of Canada is going to be either slowing down or stopping their moves because they've been aggressively cutting, then there's going to be a shift in the Canadian dollar gaining value against the US dollar, at least based on that move. There could be others that could dictate where the Canadian dollar is going to. So the Fed hasn't been doing very much comparative.
No, the Fed, I expect the Fed on Wednesday to say they're cutting. I mean, it's priced in basically. They always do what the market likes. But I do expect them to say that, look, we're going to slow down now. You may not get cuts from us every meeting going forward. We think we're in a good spot. Things are trending in the right direction. We don't want to overcorrect, and have a good Christmas. Leave some cookies and milk out for the big guy, not Joe Biden, but the other big guy. And enjoy your holiday, but don't look forward to another cut in January. I think that's where the Federal Reserve is. The U.S. economy has been pretty resilient, surprisingly so, in fact. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I continue to think that there's the discrepancy between the U.S. and Canada is going to become difficult for Canadians to ignore as more and more investment pours into an investor-friendly United States. Like, people always say, "Oh, when we get an election, we'll have a more friendly business government." Yeah, but Trudeau's Liberals for another year, while Trump and the Republicans are in the States, offering basically no red tape for anyone who comes in and spends over $1 billion. No issues with weird taxes or licenses or any of this stuff. You had Masayoshi Son today making an announcement he's going to pump $100 billion into the U.S., invest $100 billion in U.S. companies. Like, where's that investment for us? Where's that announcement? Instead, you get, Volkswagen or whatever, and then on their earnings call, they say, yeah, well, the only reason we invested in Canada is because they basically gave us a huge subsidy. Like, it's a net positive for us.
$800 million,
or whatever, right? Like, there's never like a really high quality announcement from us. Meanwhile, in the States, since Trump took over, it's been nothing but. And like, to me, it's just so obvious. And people in the chat saying, won't Poilievre do something useful? Like, honestly, I doubt it. I have literally no hope, short to medium term, to turn the country around. The problems here are so significant. Go ahead.
Do you know that Canada's corporate tax, at least from this, I'm looking at Google, it could be wrong. Corporate tax in Canada is 6% lower in Canada and the United States.
Yeah, but who cares? The currency's worth nothing.
It is. What I'm trying to get at, the
currency's worth nothing. All the skilled labor leaves. The taxes, the red tape is incredibly high.
It certainly is high. What I'm trying to get at is in terms of taxation,
income tax is 50%.
At that level, I'm not talking about other level. There is some advantages there.
Of course there is. That's why we incorporated the show. Like, I know what the corporate tax rate is. It's fucking close to nothing. It's why we do the things we do with the show's finances. But like, at the end of the day, people who are making real money don't want to get paid in worthless currency. And that's what we have. People who are making real money don't want to live in a place where you're importing all the inflation in the world because you don't produce anything. People don't want to live in a place where if they work and make it to the top tier, they pay 50% of their wealth, 50% of their income, I should say, in income tax. They don't want to live under threat of unrealized capital gains. They don't want to live under threat of not being able to get healthcare when they need it. Like, no one in their right mind is staying here unless they absolutely fucking have to. You and me have talked about this.
Hey,
you know what I mean? Like,
I have a plan. It's being executed.
You know what I'm saying? But like, you're not leaving yet, but you're trying. Like, you're ready to go. You're planning on going as soon as you can.
I have ties here still.
Yeah.
And
but people who don't,
one day maybe I'll go before those ties go. But just statistically, it shows no.
Like, they're just not going to stay. Like, people, you're going to see real brain drain here. And it's not like this is even a theoretical thing. Look at the GDP per capita. When people say, look at all the direct foreign investment we're getting, look at the best and brightest we're getting. No, we're fucking not. We're getting Uber drivers and McDonald's workers.
Now, the question, Joey, if things play out, say in a decade from now, or whatever the heck it may be, are we still doing this? And is it the International Coiners podcast?
Yeah, it'll become international. Like, I'm not gonna stick it, man. Like, I've had difficult conversations with my wife, and like, I obviously have a kid now, but like, I'm not gonna wait for things to get so bad that I have to leave. I'm gonna assume that we're gonna continue down this path. I'm gonna do the things I have to do in the meantime. But like, the thing about Bitcoin is it makes you agile, to be able to pick up and go and not worry about, oh, what about these exit? I have to go through the bank for this. Like, no, you don't have to do anything. You just leave and you never look back, and you go to a jurisdiction that wants you, that welcomes you, that invites you, that makes it worth your time.
Your bank account is secured up to 100,000 Canadian dollars.
Oh, perfect. That's great for me.
And you're good. In the States, it's 250,000 USD. So it's big. I'm surprised they haven't
4 times the amount or something like that. Like, just something insane. Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't modernized that in Canada. Say, look, it's going to be like 300,000 Canadian or whatever.
Where are they going to get the money to insure more than that?
Well, where do you
From
think
the taxes they're collecting on the guy delivering pizzas? Like, there's no fucking money. There's no money.
Where would that $100,000
$60 billion deficit? Like, there is no money. It's unbelievable.
It was never fucking fully back. Sorry. It was all gonna come from some new debt.
FDIC running ads during games, not good. CPP
what does it say? I don't watch
ads during games, not good.
What do they say? I'm curious. What do these ads say?
CPPIB? Oh, don't worry about the pension. It's fully people just moving. They're like moving boxes into a moving van. Like, oh, have you heard about the CPP? Is it fully funded? Yeah, the CPP. Like two guys moving boxes talking about the pension being funded.
But why are you watching the Canadian feed? That's what I want to know. Why?
Because even DAZN gives you the Canadian feed for some games. So anyway, the whole point is that none of this stuff is safe. Bitcoin is the only off ramp that makes any sense. And if you don't do it, like, well, then you're at the mercy of the fall economic statement. You know, you're at the mercy of the CPPIB. You're at the mercy of whatever. Nothing is safe. The Feds just yanked a couple billion from the public sector pension. Just took it.
This is not the first time that's been done.
I know it's not. And you know what happens every time they do it? A couple of years later, they say that they need the contributions to increase because the pension's underfunded. Wonder why that is. It's always coming from you. Like I said last week, the money is fucking, I'm going to look at the camera for this. For everybody except you, the money is fucking free. Stop playing the game. Buy some Bitcoin and start thinking about how you're going to get the fuck out of here. Because if you don't, by the time you think about it, it's going to be way too fucking late.
Now let's go further on this. You buy your Bitcoin. Where do you buy it from? Bull Bitcoin.
Bull Bitcoin. Yeah.
And if you're buying from Bull, you're moving it on chain onto your own. How do you confirm, Joey? How does one confirm that you have your Bitcoin? We have to get you. It's fucking
I set up a miner before I set up a node.
Fucking incredible, Joey. And the amount of resources you have to put into setting up a node.
I can't afford
For God's sakes, you could run it on the computer you have right now. It could be fucking Peru.
I can't afford it.
It ain't fucking affordability. It's you have 15 gigabytes. Yeah, whatever the fuck, 10 gigabytes to run a fucking prune node. And I understand it's not the best, but it's better than having nothing.
I will set one up over the holiday break.
Yes.
Let's go on to something else. What are we talking about? It's been an
hour.
Let's
go to Bitcoin related because we've been an hour at this.
Okay. We're going to skip the notable stories tonight. That was the Freeland hour. If you're on audio, again, a couple hundred people, man. I'm happy to see all this viewership, listenership. Hang out. Don't go anywhere. If you're on, if you're listening on audio after the fact, the rest of the episode will be out tomorrow. So take care of yourself until then.
And don't be a finance minister.